Battle for Bikini Bottom is, to this day, one of my most favorite games of all time. Ever since my father got the game for me to play while I was sick for a week and off from school in 2nd grade, I have continued to return to this title time and time again over the years, with my enjoyment of it ceasing to diminish in any capacity with every subsequent playthrough. Of course, I already made a video about this game once before, back in 2020, so there's no need for me to review the game all over again when everything I said in that video still holds up today. The original game is still a classic, flawed, but a classic, and it will be for the rest of my life. Instead, with this video, I'm going to be going back to the 2020 remake of the game, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Now that enough time has passed that the initial excitement and window of nostalgia for the original game has winded down, I figured now would be a good time to return to the HD remake once again and give it another shot to see if it still holds up, or if the remake has any noticeable flaws that I hadn't picked up on before. The game has also been patched a little bit since I last did a full playthrough, so there have been some changes implemented that could have affected my experience this time around. Either way, I've been in a Battle for Bikini Bottom mood once again, so now is as good a time as any. The original Battle for Bikini Bottom was developed by Heavy Iron Studios for the Xbox, PS2, and GameCube. However, a different team altogether, known as Purple Lamp Studios, was assigned to this remake, seeing as most of the Heavy Iron team that worked on the original game had disbanded. Initially teased during E3 of 2019, the announcement for a remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom immediately had me floored. With the recent successes of the Crash and Spyro remake trilogies, it only seemed fitting that other classic video game titles would receive the same makeover, but for a licensed game of all things to have that luxury was not an announcement I was expecting. Even still, I followed the news on the game closely over the following year and kept a keen eye out for any exciting details and bonus content that was planned to be reintroduced after being scrapped in the original game, such as the famously known Robot Squidward boss fight that only appeared in the GBA version of the game. At first, only a few screenshots of some 3D renders were available to preview, but closer to the release date, THQ Nordic, publisher of the game, put out an announcement trailer for some special editions for its release on top of the base game, which I just so happened to purchase in anticipation for showing it off in this video. So stay tuned for that later in the review. Then, in June of 2020, the game was released to a mostly positive reception, but is that reception justified now that the hype has died down? Well, let's find out. So, as per the original game, the plot begins with SpongeBob and Patrick playing an ordinary game of robots and racehorses. SpongeBob comments on how he wishes the robots were real, and Patrick whips out his magic wishing shell, which he claims has the magical ability to bring the robots to life if they put the robot toy in the conch shell and say the magic wishing word.
Okay.
Then we say the magic wishing words and shake the magic wishing shell.
Okay.
Then we go to sleep, and in the morning, we'll have real robots to play with!
But Patrick, aren't we going to say the magic wishing words?
You already did!
So, okay is the magic wishing word?
It used to be Alakazama Alabala Wiesna Tikitana Fushbar Griddle Bits von Wiederschnauzer, but I kept forgetting it.
Are you sure this'll work?
You know, a small detail I've always loved is how Patrick claims his shell works, because he says he puts a large cookie crumb in the shell, shook it a bunch, and then he got lots of little cookie crumbs. It's a small line that I never see anybody really acknowledge, but the fact that that is the logic Patrick uses to justify this working is Patrick in his purest form. Meanwhile, over at the Chum Bucket, Plankton just so happens to be building a robot army, but he accidentally left the mind control lever on Don't Obey. Of course, robots being robots, they take over the Chum Bucket and proceed to invade Bikini Bottom the following day, where SpongeBob awakens to find his pineapple in shambles. Right off the bat, in case it wasn't obvious enough, the dialogue that was recorded for the original game is being completely reused here. No new voice lines were recorded, nor were there any of the old lines re-recorded, which means that everything you hear was present in the original game.
Why do you want all that artwork? Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to!
On one hand, I can commend the game for being faithful in that sense, because all of the lines that have the same comedic timing and delivery, which I don't think would be accurately mimicked given that the lines for this game would have been recorded roughly 16 years later when the show has become a much different cartoon. On the other hand though, this means that Mr. Krabs' voice is still that admittedly weak impression of Clancy Brown rather than Clancy Brown himself, which was a sorely missed opportunity to kinda rectify that problem with the original game. Although, I'm sure with the better recording equipment and the 16-year age difference like I mentioned, his voice would probably still stick out quite a bit in a different way if all of the other characters' dialogue had remained the same. But yes, with that in mind, it's completely safe to assume that the plot of this game is note for note the exact same that it was before. So there's hardly anything new there that I really need to present to you. Besides, the plot's simple enough as it is. It doesn't warrant an entire in-depth excursion to pick apart every single sequential event. After the opening cutscene, the game just opens up from there. Seeing as this remake is very faithful to the original game, there aren't many core differences in terms of the game's structure and goals for the player in order to beat the game. You still collect golden spatulas in the same locations, as well as shiny objects for Mr. Krabs and socks for Patrick that happen to be scattered about all the levels. Spongebob still has his arsenal of bubble attacks present, although his physics are a bit different from the original game given that this is running off of an entirely different engine. But honestly, I got used to it like halfway through the first stage and didn't have any real struggles resorting back to muscle memory. One nice addition to SpongeBob's maneuverability is that you are now able to bubble bounce out of a bubble bash, which was a maneuver that I always wanted to be able to do in the original but couldn't because you were locked in place until you landed on the ground. You can also perform a singular jump and then bubble bash and then bubble bounce afterwards to get a tiny boost of extra height, which has come in handy quite a few times, especially when trying to reach this one sock in Squidward's dream. The Bubble Bowl and Turbo Bubble are both unlockable upgrade moves after boss fights just like always, and are still insanely satisfying to use in-game as well. In fact, I think the Turbo Bubble especially controls way better than it did in the original game, and is something that I'll probably have difficulty going back to. Patrick and Sandy are also playable characters in the game with similar moves in the sense that they can attack and jump, but Patrick has the special ability to pick up and throw objects and enemies, while Sandy is capable of long-distance hovering as well as knocking out most enemies in one hit with her lasso attack, assuming she doesn't get hit during the wind-up. Sandy's lasso is way faster now and can be used in mid-air, unlike the original game, which is a godsend, might I say, and Patrick's ground slam now has two different variations. The first is more of a butt bounce with a smaller radius but comes out faster, and the double jump variation consists of the traditional downward belly flop with a bigger spread. Patrick's throwing control has also seen improvements, and his belly attack gives him a slight burst of forward momentum that helped in extending his horizontal distance capabilities. Graphically speaking, this game is absolutely gorgeous and has a visual splendor to the eyes. I love the new lighting engine that removes a lot of the lighting bugs from the original game. I mean, I can actually see in Kelp Forest now, isn't that great? Okay, I say that semi-seriously. It's come to my attention that it is literally impossible to review Battle for Bikini Bottom in any sense of the word without complaining about how dark Kelp Forest is in the original game, so I wasn't really throwing that out there because that matters to me, it's just more of an obligation. Seriously, find a video on the internet about this game that doesn't already exist and doesn't mention that Kelp Forest is too dark. I dare you.
You best not be stirring up no trouble.
Nonsense! I only want to help! Help crush you all under my rise to power.
What was that?
Nothing!
Jellyfish Fields is an incredible first stage to really show off the prowess of the art direction and detail that definitely deserves recognition, and the higher resolution and crisper models are great enhancements that really prove to me that I don't think this game is ever going to age poorly in that department. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. I also really love running around Goo Lagoon with the updated beach texture and water graphics that really make me just want to go to a beach somewhere in real life and take a vacation. And the pier still remains my favorite singular area in the whole game. Love that boardwalk feeling, man. It just takes me back to when I first played this all those years ago. Check out my original review if you want to know the story behind that, by the way. Unfortunately though, this game is not without its shortcomings. In a few different areas I noticed very apparent graphical glitches, such as in Goo Lagoon where these clusters of pixels just randomly appeared on screen with no real rhyme or reason, and the water seems to glitch out every now and again as well. Sound problems also weren't entirely avoidable, because while the issues that pertain to the original version have been corrected, new audio issues have taken their place, such as the obnoxiously loud solar panel sound effect that plays every time you respawn at the sandcastle in Goo Lagoon, as well as a noticeable lack of sounds in certain spots, such as when you acquire the sock in Squidward's house. Even entire lines of dialogue are cut off in places, such as when Squidward, coincidentally, gives you the golden spatula for jumping in his house.
Okay, just stop jumping, will you? If you take this golden spatula, will you please go away?
See, Squidward? I knew that you could help me out. You're the best.
Don't touch me.
See, Squidward? I knew that you could help me out. You're the best.
Don't touch me.
And don't even get me started on the bubble bowl spinners, which seem to completely break when you hit them more than once. I will admit there were several flaws with the game that kinda left me a little more disappointed than I was hoping I would be. I distinctly remember having a very easy time with boss fights during my very first playthrough of Rehydrated, and sadly I really start to notice it this time around. Robot Sandy felt like it was over in 5 seconds, and the fact that Robot Patrick always landed with his back facing me on the stationary platform made hitting him way easier than it was in the original game, where he was programmed to never land facing away from you and make the player work their way around the conveyor belts in order to hit him. That was always a part of the challenge of the third phase, and removing that aspect just makes the boss fight way too easy. Plus, the sound effect for his ice breath attack is also completely missing. As for Sandy, I guess maybe the reason for speeding it up was because the devs felt the original boss fight felt too slow, which I kinda get considering there is a lot of waiting around in between each of her attacks, but I don't know, maybe a 4th or 5th attack could have been introduced to at least switch things up and pad things out a bit more, because now it feels like that fight is over before it begins. Also, the hitbox on her 4-limbed clothesline move is bullshit. I jumped perfectly there and still got hit.
Spelling! The old clothesline move!
The final boss fight is fine enough, just a little bit easier than it was in the original, but it's not as noticeable as the other two fights. Most of everything else that I complimented in the original game also applies to the remake as well. The level design is fundamentally identical, as are all of the golden spatulas. The rolling ball mission can die in a fire, even though it doesn't give me too much trouble. It's still a miserable slog to get through and completely brings the game to a halt, and the soundtrack is as great as it's always been, especially with the new remastered composition. I really miss the Patrick texture on the crates of sunscreen that the robot steals in Goo Lagoon. I am, of course, playing the PlayStation 4 version of this game on my PlayStation 5 because my PS5 is my baby and I love it very much. And yeah, the control still feels slick to the point that I never find myself complaining that I felt like I lost control of my character, even on icy terrain. One of my absolute biggest issues, however, and this was something I expressed when the game came out that I had really hoped would be patched, is the hitbox on the Tartar robot. You can't hit the tank on the back of him like you can in the original game, and muscle memory be the death of me, that is just something I cannot get used to. The controls? Perfectly fine. Hitting this robot? Can't do it. SpongeBob's bubble wand just passes right through it like it's not even there. I'm sorry, but that should totally have a hitbox, no questions asked. Same goes for bubble bashing the Chuck robots. It is super annoying when you slide around them instead of destroying them from underneath like you're supposed to in the original game. Being able to see levels in the background over a long distance is really cool though, especially with the updated and enhanced high-resolution graphics and draw distance, although a fair share of pop-in did occur from time to time depending on the size of the area that I was in. Honestly, it feels like with this game I can balance every single negative that I have to say with a positive here, because another thing I don't like is how the transition between warp boxes is a fade in and out of black, whereas in the original the camera would just snap to the other box in an instant, making it much quicker and more energetic as a result. In Rehydrated, well, you don't seem to land inside the box unless you're in the dead center of it when you jump in. On the other hand, you can jump in SpongeBob form now, and that's made those sections very convenient because you're able to correct yourself more, a much needed upgrade if you ask me. I also enjoyed the added idle animations such as the shocked face and chicken meme, because apparently this thing needs to show up in every video game featuring SpongeBob SquarePants apparently. Automated wall jumping is nice and made having to worry about the accuracy in Flying Dutchman's Graveyard non-existent, which I completely welcome because I'll take something being slightly easier over having to deal with a somewhat unreliable wall jumping system that takes 2.5 minutes just to get to the top of. I'm very aware that the game is also full of glitches with character models growing and shrinking, and while I didn't find myself encountering anything like that on any of the playthroughs I've done thus far, I did catch myself getting stuck in places that I couldn't easily get out of for no real reason. The checkpoints added for Squidward's dream were nice, and I found Mr. Krabs' dream to be easier too, thankfully. But once again, to balance a positive with a negative, I had this happen to me twice, where no musical notes spawned on a section of only the yellow falling music notes, and I was forced to die because I had no way of jumping forward or back to the platform that I came from. Patrick's dream also doesn't loop around like it did in the original, so 0 out of 10, worst game ever. Alright, I'm kidding. But to kind of wrap this section up, as it's mostly devolved into me just acknowledging differences that I do and do not like between both versions, I like the redesigned Kelp Forest slide. It's way better than the original. The new menu design used to track your progress is also better than the original, personally speaking. I don't like that robots no longer count as 2 tikis when forming combos, or that the highest tier combo is now just a super monster combo rather than a far more satisfying super ultra mega monster combo. I'm also not a fan of the added fog that occurs during sliding sequences, because the original game never had anything like that. And finally, I don't like that they moved this sock back in Jellyfish Fields, because now I can't use this shortcut that saves a ton of time in the original game, so instead now I have to go to the entire second area, get Patrick, like you're supposed to, and then come back to the first area in order to get it. Even with the fast travel system between golden spatulas, it still takes longer than me just using the one plant trampoline to bounce my way over there. I will say though, personally I am very glad that there was a patch update made to lower the amount of shiny objects that Mr. Krabs requires the player to obtain all of the golden spatulas, because originally the player was expected to collect over 100,000 shiny objects in order to purchase them all, whereas now it's down to only the original 39,500 objects, which is how it should have been to begin with. This is also bothersome to me because the price to get into the theater is still 40,000 shiny objects. My suspicion for this has always been that it was to encourage the multiplayer mode, because any objects earned there carry over to your single player save file. But I disagree with the notion that forcing a player to play a side mode or grind shiny objects at all in Jellyfish Fields or Goo Lagoon for hours on end just to obtain a 100% reward is deemed a good idea. It's not. It's terrible. I really don't like it, in the original and here, and that's my biggest criticism that I wish was fixed. The multiplayer mode is, by and large, the most disappointing part of the remake for me. This really could have been an opportunity to expand on more playable characters and do something exciting with the cut content of the original game, but sadly, no SpongeBob costume power-ups are present, there is no full-on stage for Patrick's dream, you never actually fight Robot Squidward throughout the entire setting, and all of the characters can only attack, jump, and ground slam. A few of the characters, like Squidward, have projectile attacks, while others are more melee focused, but SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy all got nerfed and can't do any of their signature moves that they have in single player, which is a little lame if you ask me. It also gets very monotonous very quickly, seeing as it's just wave after wave of enemies with little change other than a little bit of variety in the platforms below the characters. I wasn't impressed with this mode in the slightest and have no reason to ever really play it again. In fact, I just grabbed this footage from a playthrough I did on a dead YouTube channel from a long time ago because it was easier than having to play through it again. You know, I really wish the theater was used as like a hub room for a few different areas that contain levels and boss fights for the actual cut content of the game. Let me provide you with a good example of what I'm talking about. LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga. This is a compilation of LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, which were originally released on a previous generation of consoles. Inside Mos Eisley Cantina, the main hub world of the game, there exists a room containing a handful of different gateways that all unlock after the player acquires a certain number of gold bricks, the main collectible of the game. Each of these correspond to a level in the game that was either cut from the original versions or created as a bonus level that didn't really have a place anywhere else. If Rehydrated had done something like this, where there were individual theaters inside the building that each led down to a different level, I think that would have been a perfect use of the building, and it would echo its use in the original game where it hosted that hidden content. How awesome would that have been? There could have been a room for Glove World, a room for Patrick's Sunday Dream, maybe another room where you could unlock the power-up suits for SpongeBob, and then after beating all of them, you could unlock the final theater room containing a hidden secret super boss in the game, that of course being Robot Squidward. I don't know, maybe it wasn't in the budget, maybe there wasn't any time, maybe it wasn't even an idea. Either way, it definitely screams missed opportunity to me, but it's not a deal breaker. And now, as I mentioned earlier on, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated had multiple different editions released when the game first came out in the form of the Shiny and Fun editions, priced at $150 and $300 respectively. Personally, I thought those amounts were ridiculously high when the game was coming out, so I waited for a while, and as luck would have it, I just so happened to stumble upon the Fun edition at a substantially discounted price, which I instantly purchased with the intent of showing it off in this very video. So I hope you all enjoy this next segment because this was a really cool opportunity that I could not wait to show off. With that said, let's go ahead and switch things over to live action Shadow Streak for once. Alright, so as I had just said in the video, I'm going to be showing off the Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated Fun edition of Battle for Bikini Bottom that was recently made back when the game came out. As I said in the video, there were two editions, the Shiny edition, which was kind of like the medium-tiered box set, and then the Fun edition, originally priced at $300. Luckily, I managed to get this thing on sale for more than 50%, excuse me. So, I'm just going to go ahead and unbox this thing and kind of show you guys what all comes in that edition, for those of you that may be curious. I don't know that these things are still being sold anymore, seeing as the game's been out for quite a while, and I bought this at a second-hand shop, so yeah, I doubt these things are still retailing at regular price. Alright, so sorry about that little cut there. I'm gonna go ahead and just unbox this bad boy. I already went ahead and kind of cut the tape on it a little bit, so it should be relatively easy to get open. This is also the first ever Shadow Streak unboxing video to exist, so that's a thing, for what that's worth. And oh, wow, okay, it's upside down. Let me go ahead and flip this around real quick so I can go ahead and show that off. Alright, apologize for that little cut there. So the Spongebob figurine is pretty cool. This comes in both versions. It's got SpongeBob on top of a robot head, looks like the hammer head specifically, and Gary's there on the side, and it also comes with a golden spatula here, right on the right side of the box. I don't think I'm gonna unbox this. I don't know, NRFB, you know, any Dexter's Lab fans out there. But yeah, here's kind of the back of the box, which has, again, an image of what the figurine looks like. Yeah, so that's the SpongeBob one. Like I said, this comes in both editions. So I'll just set that over to the side. Next up, we've got Sandy here. So Sandy, this one's a little more, I guess, general. I guess you do have the tiki in the back. You can kind of see him right there. We got Sandy here. She's got her trusty lasso out, of course, one of her best moves, which got a serious upgrade in the remake, by the way. It's pretty cool. There's also some bubbles on the back, which has like a nice detail, and I love how she's on her shell board that she uses for the sliding sequences, and the sand being kicked up in the back there is really cool. Yep, and then there's the back artwork. There's my reflection. That's the closest you're going to get to a face reveal for a while. Yeah, there's Sandy's figurine, and then of course we also have the last playable character of Patrick, covered in smashed watermelons. Patrick right there. His tooth, the way his mouth looks, he looks a little, I don't know, dinky for lack of a better term. It's a little weird face there, but you got the socks, of course, Patrick's socks, big collectible in the game. You got his melon, which he's good at throwing, kind of flexing his left arm there, which is cool. Yeah, and then that's Patrick's artwork on the back of that box. So cool figures. Like I said, I don't know if I'm ever going to unbox these or not. Not that I'm like a prestigious collector or anything. But, you know, if Dexter's Lab taught me anything, it's NRFB. So that is kind of the biggest aspect of the Fun edition, is those figurines for Patrick and Sandy. There are some extra things as well, which I can't wait to show you guys. First up, we have tons of stickers, clearly, and they even come in their own little plastic pouch, which is cool. That's nifty. But there's tons of stickers here. Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. You know, you got SpongeBob, Patrick, kind of the box art. Sandy there on her lasso. Some of the robots. You got Monsoon and Hammer, Pineapple, Tiki. Yes, I know the enemies by name. That's how much I love the game. There's some classic artwork, SpongeBob in his jellyfish hunting glasses, Gary's up there. More of SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy. Ooh, golden spatula from the episode Neptune Spatula, where he pulls the spatula out of the grease and fights King Neptune, which is also referenced in the Poseidon boss battle, which is cool. You got some Glove World balloons. There's Plankton in the bottom, being a little evil. Mr. Krabs, Plankton again, Squidward. I'm surprised there's literally only one Squidward and Mr. Krabs sticker in all of this. Got some jellyfish, though, which is cool. Surprising lack of Bubble Buddy and Mrs. Puff and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, seeing as they are also characters in the game. I understand that Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy are retired characters, seeing as their voice actors have both passed on, which is understandable, and I also understand why those lines weren't re-recorded for those characters specifically. But, you know, to have some stickers in there would have been nice at least, but oh well, it's not the end of the world, it's not a deal breaker. Here we have some, I don't know what to call these, if they're postcards or, I don't know what these would be. They're not really like a poster, I don't know. There's probably a name for this, but this is showing off some concept art, I'm assuming, of Goo Lagoon right there. You got the lifeguard tower on the top, some tikis right there. The water looks cool. I like the kind of reflective sparkles there. That's interesting. Apologies if the lighting is not good and if the camera's going in and out of focus. I am literally using my Samsung Galaxy S20 FE. That is a long name for a phone. And I don't have the best lighting in this apartment. Honestly, this right now is the brightest it ever gets in here. So, apologies for that. We got another one right here of the cave, Goo Lagoon Caves. We got Caveman SpongeBob right over there, which is also in the game. You can find it on one of the walls, which is a nice little Easter egg. Let's see, what else do we got? We got the Jellyfish Caves, which is a really cool area. I actually really like how they updated this place in the remake, because the original, it was just a generic blue cave. They added these crystals, kind of made it a little more purple, which was cool. That was a nice area to see. We got Rock Bottom right here, which is fascinating. That's I believe that is the Trench of Advanced Darkness. I could be wrong if that's the wrong segment. It actually might be the first section. I don't see the museum though, so, but oh well. We got Sand Mountain, my favorite level in the game because I love the sliding sequences. I love how that Duplicatotron is literally just there by itself. That's pretty cool. And then Guppy Hill, or Guppy Mound. It's one of those two. I think it's Guppy Mound, Flounder, Hill, and Sand Mountain. I think that's how it is. Excuse me. Which is cool. And then last but not least, downtown Bikini Bottom with a nice sunset. And honestly, it would have been really cool if the level had the sunset too, you know? Because I really like the way the sky looks in this. Kind of like the nighttime aesthetic, dusk feeling. Really cool. There's a Plankton Obey sign up there, which is interesting. I wonder if that's there in the actual game. I don't recall it being on that building, but hey. So yeah, there are the postcards, for lack of a better term. I apologize, I'm sure someone in the comments is gonna be like, actually they're called this. Well, I'm sorry I didn't know that. So, yeah. But as I put these away and kind of move on to the next thing, because we don't have too much more to show off, I just want to say, let me know what you guys think about this section of the video. If you think this is cool that I'm doing this, that I'm showing this off, if you have any ideas for, like, if I should do this in future games, what games I should do it for, or if I should just do more live action stuff in general, because, you know, I don't really do it too much in most of my videos. They're mostly just in post. So let me know what you think. Also, it comes with some foam, so that's cool. You can actually wear it like SpongeBob's karate gear, because it's like the same shape. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think of that. Okay, and also let me know what you think of the video in general, because this is a video I was really looking forward to doing. And then we also have, not that I'm ever going to wear these, but because socks are a collectible in the game, I guess Purple Lamp, or whoever was in charge of creating this special edition, fun edition, decided to throw in a pair of socks. SpongeBob socks, to be exact. So, just like in the game, I mean, these are SpongeBob socks, not Patrick's socks, because Patrick doesn't even wear socks. But you got the same SpongeBob design with the stitching right there, and then the red and blue. And the blue stripe actually says Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is really, really cool. That's a really nice detail that kind of gives it an extra flair. Like I said, I'm probably never going to wear these because the socks I wear are... I wear black socks, and I also wear them up to, like, not even my ankle. Well, yeah, my ankle, I guess. I don't know. My heel, I guess, not above my heel. Or maybe my ankle. Yeah, not above my ankle. I know my anatomy. Whatever. But, you know, it's still a novel thing, for sure. The biggest thing for me was definitely the statues, and then also this last thing coming up right here, because this was the other really cool thing. So, you got this box, right? With the stone tiki keychains. Oh yeah, so hopefully I can just let it drop. There we go. Spin that around. Sorry, I will adjust that in a second. Look at these. This is super cool. Okay, so you got 5 keychains right here, right? You got the regular wooden tiki. You got the tiki. Sorry. You got the floating tiki right there. You got the thunder tiki, which surprisingly is lacking a lot of red. I actually don't really like how it's brown instead of red, but hey. And then the stone tiki on the far right. So, yeah, keychains for all the major tikis in the game, which is really, really cool. I'm definitely glad they introduced these. My cat is coming to say hello and probably claw at the foam. But, yeah, that is the last thing included. Yep, here she comes. I don't know if she's going to get on frame, but, yep, there she goes. That's Sheikah, for anyone who doesn't know. Just coming to say hi. But yeah, so that is the last of the materials included in the Fun edition of Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Like I said, I was really looking forward to showing this off. There's some really cool things in this. If you do manage to find Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated Fun edition secondhand somewhere, I highly, highly, highly recommend you check it out. I'm trying to put this in frame. Come on, just a little more to the left. There we go. Yeah, I definitely recommend if you can get this at like a cheaper price, definitely do it. Like I said, I managed to get it for roughly, I got it for $120 without the game. So this is normally priced at $300, but I figured, you know what? I really want to go ahead and show this off in my video because it's something that is really important to me. The game, that is. And this is a really cool aspect of it that I would love to be able to display. So, at this point in the video, I am rambling a little bit. I apologize if this went on a little longer than expected. I've never done an unboxing anything before in my life, so this was a first for me. And a first for you guys to see it. So, shout out to those of you that are watching this far into the video. With that said, however, I think that's going to wrap up the live action segment, so I'm just going to go ahead and flip it right back over to post-production Shadow to conclude this video with my closing thoughts. Thanks, guys. The faithfulness to the original game is still Battle for Bikini Bottom's most admirable quality, and in some cases its detriment, and I had a blast playing through it all over again. I'm very impressed with the amount of effort that went into remaking this game to look the best that it could possibly be, unlike a lot of other licensed games as many of you already know, although it could use a little bit more optimization. The original Battle for Bikini Bottom was of a pristine quality. Heck, it practically ranks in the triple S tier if such a tier list exists. The fact that Nickelodeon allowed Purple Lamp Studios to put this game together and do it well is something that I won't take for granted, because this very well could have been just another quick and cheap cash grab the way a lot of licensed games tend to be. Personally, while the game doesn't entirely recapture the same exact feeling of the original, I think it does a solid job at reintroducing it to a newer generation of video game players. The recent announcement of the Cosmic Shake tells me that the Rehydrated remake was successful enough to warrant a brand new SpongeBob game developed by the same team. So I have my fingers crossed that it will be able to live up to the standard of Rehydrated, if not exceed it, because I will always be down for a brand new SpongeBob game. Assuming it's in the same style and structure as Battle for Bikini Bottom, of course. I anxiously wait for more details to be revealed on that one, but I have the hope that it'll be good. It was nice getting to revisit Rehydrated once again, and I'm glad to have made this video on it because it just reinforces my stance that this is an all-around great video game that many people deserve to try out at some point in their lives. I'll continue to sing its praises to hell and back until the end of time, and Purple Lamp deserves a pat on the back for pulling off a solid remake of an already great game. That about does it for me though, so I think it's about time I move on to another game. With that said, I hope you all go out and give this game a shot if you haven't already. It truly is a fun experience, SpongeBob fan or not. Until next time, Shadowstreak, signing off.